a model for success with stress. It was Saturday morning in the middle of July, time for our weekly mountain bike adventure. The boys and I headed up the trail the same as we usually do each week. We don't always travel along the same trail, but we always seem to start the ride going uphill. This time, my brother Glenn was joining us. Glenn hadn't done much biking that summer. He said he hadn't even been on his mountain bike for over a year. I had the feeling early on that he would struggle with that day's ride. Glenn fought the trail from the very beginning. He pushed and struggled up the hill. Nothing about the ride was enjoyable. He didn't look around at the splendor of the morning sun or the exploding colors on the trees or the beauty of the distant valley below. He didn't notice the subtle changes in wind and temperature as we moved up the mountain. Part of Glenn's problem was that he was out of shape. He hadn't ridden in a long time. The other part of his struggle was that his bike was, in his terms, garbage. While everyone else twiddled up the hill in granny gear, a very low gear precisely designed to help a rider get up steep hills, Glenn's first gear was more like third or fourth gear for the rest of us. He had to exert far more effort on his stroke to make the bike move along. The mechanics of his bike made it a lot more difficult for him to do the same thing the rest of us were doing with relative ease. If Glenn would have used another bike that allowed him to twiddle with a much more suitable granny gear, he would have had a completely different and much more enjoyable experience. So what's the metaphor of my brother's ride up the hill and stress? We all seem to go along a similar trail. We start Earth life with a ride ahead that is filled with a variety of ups and downs that we get to live through. We can't avoid those. We are on the trail. I suppose we could get off the trail, suicide, depression, or to be in denial, but in truth, we all move along this path one way or another. The question becomes, what differentiates those who struggle up the hill from those who ride up with relative ease, twiddling along in granny gear, enjoying the views, the changes of scenery, and the experience? The answer must partly be the fitness level. Or in this case, the level of self-efficacy, gumption, consistency, and courage one has, as discussed in the previous video. But the other key to success must be the bike on which one rides, the mechanism that moves one along the trail. In stress management, this refers to the strategies one uses as he or she encounters the ups and downs of life. As I mentioned in the Understanding Stress videos, successful stress management consists of two strategies. The first strategy is stress prevention, keeping the stress response from turning on in the first place. The second strategy is stress reduction, turning off the stress response when it is not needed. Most stress management books and programs focus on one or the other, but you need both elements to be successful. Prevention keeps the stress response off. The successful manager of stress has consistent thinking patterns that are free of any thoughts of unnecessary perceived threat. Remember, perceived threat thoughts turn the stress response on. No perceived threat thought, no threat, no stress. We explore the principles, skills, and activities to do this in the stress prevention and the mindfulness videos. Reduction turns the stress response off. Sometimes, despite our best stress prevention efforts, the stress response still turns on. So the second strategy involves deliberately turning the stress response off after it has been launched. Relaxation turns the stress response off. The successful manager of stress prevents the stress response from turning on and consistently does those things necessary to turn the stress response off whenever it has been activated. You learn a variety of powerful tools that immediately turn off your stress in the stress reduction videos. Interestingly, when you consistently turn off the stress response through relaxation, you also help to prevent subsequent triggering of the stress response. When you combine both strategies, stress prevention and stress reduction, you set yourself up for success over stress. Let's break this down just a little bit more so that you're perfectly clear how successful stress management looks. The stress management pyramid depicts a successful stress management system. At the bottom are the things you can do to prevent stress, including making a positive choice in the gap between stimulus and response, upgrading your thoughts, and thinking mindfully, that is, staying in the moment. Do these things as much as possible every day. You learn how to do these in the stress prevention and the mindfulness videos. Moving up the pyramid, you'll notice that stress reduction should also happen on a daily basis. This goes along with doing things that are needed to maintain physical wellness and relaxation. These tools for maintaining physical health and wellness and for turning off the fight or flight response are found in the stress reduction videos. Create your stress management vision. What is a vision? A vision is a desired state, a way of being that you'd like to experience as you look ahead to your future, from 6 months to 5 years from now. A stress management vision is a foreseeing of the things you'd like to realize with respect to your psychological and emotional well-being. Think of your vision as a convincing declaration of who you would like to be and the behaviors you want to do consistently. As I describe what a stress management vision is, what thoughts and images immediately come to your mind? Is it easy for you to see yourself feeling a lot better than you do right now? After viewing the other videos, you probably have some sense of how things could be different for you, and you've given some thought to it. On the other hand, it might seem a bit daunting when you start thinking of where you want to be and how you want to get there. Fortunately, regardless of where you are, a guided step-by-step approach will set you in the right direction. As the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu so wisely said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." But we first need to figure out where you want to end up. That's your vision. Let's discover it together. I'd like you to think ahead, perhaps a year or two, maybe even 5 years into your future. Think about your life and what you'd like it to be like if it could be any way you wanted. How would you like things to be for you regarding your stress? If things could be ideal, what would it look like if you were entirely on top of your thinking, emotions, and stress? How would you feel if you were at your ideal state of stress management? Perhaps you might include some of the following in your answers. Feel confident and alert. Experience high mental focus and productivity. Have a positive self-image and self-esteem. Experience peace of mind. Feel balanced. Feel in control. Feel relaxed. Feel happy. Feel joy. Your vision guides you to your final outcome. Go to the next video to learn what you can do to arrive.